Now, when you coach in the WHL, you were there for almost like fully 10 years there, 9 years in the WHL altogether. What did you learn from the hockey personnel, like head coaches, GMs, and all that stuff? Did you learn anything interesting from them?
Yeah, the biggest eye opener was when I was a kid and I got drafted to Swift Current, and showing up at camp and doing everything that I did and played well and fought through battles and whatever, and then didn't ever really get an opportunity. I always felt sorry for myself. I was always like, oh, poor old me, poor old me. And then as soon as I got on the inside and I was in those meeting rooms and there's way more to it. There's way more to it than just like, hey, like they have a plan. There's a method with teams. The reason they draft a certain way, that how they develop. Sometimes they lose guys through trades. Sometimes they lose guys through injuries. Sometimes a guy quits. There's lots of different like moving cogs that I learned. Like holy, like it's at the junior level, it's a business. Those people that run it, the GMs and the owners, it's a business. They're trying to make money. So again, I'm not a big fan of the whole idea of just like they're trying to make money, but you have to understand like they have boundaries and requirements that they need to meet. And in order to meet those, they have to make decisions. And sometimes the decisions aren't in your favor. So the thing that I learned a lot was I learned a lot about the idea of like the intricate way a junior team is built, the way it's run. But then I also learned a lot about different personalities. I had a great GM in Kootenay with Kootenay Ice, Jeff Chynoweth. He's now the GM of the Calgary Hitmen. He was awesome. He taught me a lot about winning. He taught me how to win and like what it takes to win. And he taught me a lot. Actually, he taught me a lot about like the individual side of it as well. The goaltending coach that was there before me, totally different than me. And when I say totally different, when I first got there, I was 24. I look younger than I am right now. I look really young. They thought I was a player. A lot of the scouts and coaches thought I was a player when I showed up. So when I got on the ice and I was working with the goalies, everybody was like, sort of, oh, that guy. But then instantly had success right away with Kootenay, and that's where our GM he flat out told me like, I trust you. You're do whatever you want with the goalies. I don't care. You don't even have to report to me anymore. Just if we keep winning and they keep getting better, I don't care. Had head coaches, same thing. Mark Hollick, head coach in Kootenay, and I had him in Prince George as well. He was outstanding. He taught me a lot about the idea of again like the building and like the building of an athlete, the building of a team, how those things come together. It just turned out like as Mark Hollick was leaving, we had a pretty tough go. The 1 year we with Kootenay Ice, we made playoffs. The Kootenay was in playoffs for 14 straight years, and in the 15th year, we started the season pretty rough. We were lower part of the league, and we had a goalie that was it was my first experience at being a dad. He was a 19-year-old kid from California, and was getting into was causing a bunch of problems. He was missing curfew and stuff, so there's some problems. And we ended up turning him into a player. We weren't in a playoff spot, and then we went on a 16-game win streak, and he was a big reason for the 16-game win streak. It was hilarious. I was at a wedding, and we played. I was at a wedding in Banff, and we played on TV. We played on Shaw that night, and he made 43 saves. We beat Red Deer 3-1. And they interviewed him afterwards, and his interview was hilarious. They were like, "The 43 saves, you're outstanding. What can you attribute that to?" And he looked up at the roof, and then he looked back at the camera and said, I summoned the spirit of Patrick Waugh. It was like, what? Like Patrick Waugh's still alive, man. What? So yeah, he was my first experience of like sort of having to really, really coddle and parent somebody and get him on the right track. And that year again, we made playoffs and we won the first round of playoffs. And the coach won Coach of the Year, actually, because he took us from a bottom feeder all the way. And so when we won Coach of the Year, he called and said, you know what, this is a group effort and a group award. So, like, being able to understand, like, the sharing of how, yeah, he won Coach of the Year, but everybody had a part in it, right? And how he shared that with all of us. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience to know that. And then sure enough, he ends up getting promoted to the American Hockey League. And then our assistant coach took over, and the next year we went to the Memorial Cup. So you learn a lot about like culture and building a proper culture and doing things the right way rather than the easy way. And again, sometimes you're going to have bumps in the road. Sometimes there's going to be adversity. Sometimes your best player gets hurt. Sometimes your goalie is sick. There's things that happen, but there's ways that you need to work around them. So I learned a lot about the idea of like building and understanding like the intricacies of trying to build those things.